they're saying here it takes to become a project manager. I really hope this is good. I'm big fan of Mr. Green, so I'm hoping this is spot on. We'll find out.
I have this friend who wanted to be one of those guys who juggles fire at the circus when he grew up. You know, all those flaming pins going up and down and back and forth, where even one wrong move, one dropped pin could lead not only to his fiery demise, but the death of all of those small children innocently munching their popcorn in the front row. Instead, he grew up to be a project manager. And while at first glance those jobs might sound pretty different, they actually have way more in common than you might expect. He spends his days juggling tasks, keeping all sorts of different things in the air, and of course putting out fires, because without him, the whole circus would burn down. Hi, I'm Hank Green, and here is how to become a professional a project manager.
Okay, so far off to a fantastic start. Accurate descriptions. Thank you. That is professional juggler and I didn't remember what else he said. Professional firefighter for sure. That's funny. All right, let's see what else they say.
So project management is one of those great fields that have multiple entry points for folks of wildly different backgrounds and experience levels. So we're going to get into the more formalized degree-focused options that lead to becoming a project manager, but we'll also get into all of the PM training that exists for established folks or people looking for a pivot, and how to try it out before you run away with the circus. So stick with us. Now, while being a project manager doesn't sound as glamorous or exciting as a job like fire juggler or knife thrower or the guy who sticks his head inside of the lion's mouth, without project managers, nothing would get done. Companies or even...
Again, so accurate. Without project managers, nothing would get done. But I don't know, if you're a project manager, you probably have the experience. Drop it in the comments below. If you tell somebody you're a project manager, I get glazed over looks, and then I have to explain to them what project management is. So I think it's interesting. What we do is critical to our to the success of so many industries, yet so many folks don't even know what it is that we do. So interesting.
Whole countries would crumble and the world would grind to a halt. Probably. That's because project managers are in charge of overseeing ongoing projects for a company, making sure everything stays on track, in budget, and actually gets done. They help break up big projects into actionable tasks, communicate between all the different departments, workers, and outside stakeholders involved, and manage projects from conception to closing. To get this all done, project managers have to be supremely organized with strong leadership, team management, and communication skills, and the ability to both solve problems creatively and keep multiple flaming torches airborne at all times. So if you delight over deadlines, have an affinity for action items, don't mind saying yes my circus, yes my monkeys, and carry a burning torch for to-do list.
That's so funny. I am actually known for the phrase of not my circus, not my monkeys. It's funny that he would say that. But no, that's true. I mean, we own that, right? When we're the project manager, you own, you don't necessarily own the end deliverables, but you own driving the team to get there, and you own the responsibility of making the team successful in the process of getting there. So definitely agree with that.
Let's get into things. Most careers in project management start in the same place, college. In fact, about 68% of project managers hold a bachelor's degree, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics as of 2024.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they went to college for. I would say that's probably a misconception. The majority of project managers, while they may have a college education, don't have a college education in project management, or in a lot of cases, even a related field. A lot of folks that are practitioners, engineers, developers, folks like that who have an affinity for Gantt charts, deadlines, action items, all the things that he's saying, those folks also tend to drift into project management roles and then kind of grow up into that industry, but they didn't necessarily go to college to be project managers. So I would push back on that statistic just a little bit.
More popular majors for future project managers are business, management, finance, engineering, and computer science. But it can also be a good idea to get your degree in the field you plan to work in. So for those looking to go into circus equipment design, don't discount Clown College. No matter your major, you should make sure to get a few crucial classes under your belt, like budgeting, statistics, and risk management for businesses. Skills that you will
risk management's key.
industry. After securing a bachelor's degree, some project managers in training go on to get a master's degree as well, usually an MBA or MSPM, which is a more specialized master's in project management. But don't count on having to go back to physical school to bag those degrees. There are tons of online options that you can complete in as little as 2 years. But shelling out the money and time for a degree definitely isn't necessary. One common other route to becoming a project manager is working your way up the corporate ladder. You know, the ladder that's suspended above the circus.
This is what I was talking about.
Entry-level jobs like project assistant, project coordinator, junior project manager, or project support specialist can help get your foot in the door and give you the training you need to be the project manager of your.
I mean, the reality is if you're going into an established, mature project management organization and you're not just taking a title of project manager, if you're talking about the formality, PMI, project manager, you're never going to start as a project manager. You're going to start at one of these lower levels because you have to gain the experience up to then be able to manage projects at that level. But there are a lot of organizations where it's, oh, you're a project manager. But if you look at the job description, it doesn't necessarily match what PMI or most of us project managers would actually technically consider to be a textbook project manager. But
dreams. There are also a ton of classes and programs focused specifically on project management, which could be cheaper, faster, more focused, and more accessible than going for a whole bachelor's degree. These programs might be more general, focusing on the big ideas of project management, like different techniques and styles, basic project management software, leadership strategies, and communication basics. One of the most common entry-level project management certifications is the CAPM. You can get your CAPM certification through the Project Management Institute and prepare for the exam through a local college or university or an online provider like Google or Coursera. And like project management itself, it can be pretty quick-paced. Most people can earn their certification in a few months. There are also more specialized certifications you can earn in specific approaches to project management. Like you could take classes to become an IC Agile certified professional, or a certified Scrum Master, or even a professional Scrum Master 1, which is a real thing. And
that's true. Those are absolutely certifications and they're good certifications. However, I would say the overwhelming majority of the industry or of industries, it's still the PMP or CAPM. It's going to be PMI based certifications, which PMI does have some agile based certifications, but PMP is really the gold standard still when you're talking about project management certifications. So true, these certifications are out there, good to get them, good to stack certifications, but the PMP is going to be the one that's going to open the most doors for you.
That gives you a strong background and experience in some of the most common project management strategies. Also, maybe rugby. These kinds of certifications are really impressive to prospective employers, like juggling your 5 flaming pins while riding a unicycle kind of impressive. Sometimes, companies even require their project managers to hold some sort of project management specific certification, particularly if they don't also have a bachelor's degree. But you can have all the degrees and certifications in the world and still not know if you're ready for a full-time job in project management. Think about it. You can learn all the physics of how the balls spin as you're juggling them, but that doesn't mean that you can actually juggle them. There's too many balls.
This is so true.
Luckily, there are lots of ways to figure out if project management is the career path for you. If you've ever worked on a group project in school, you probably already have some idea if you have what it takes to be a successful project manager. Like, are you the de facto group leader who assigns roles, creates a timeline, and checks in with your teammates? More importantly, do you like being that person? If not, your organizational skills might be better used elsewhere. But if so, then odds are a life of project management might be right up your alley. Next, you might start by applying to some of those entry-level jobs I mentioned earlier, or maybe start by volunteering to help manage a project for a community organization. There are also lots of internships in project management available in a variety of fields because, let's face it, everybody needs some help.
I was waiting to see if you'd mention PMI. The other thing is get involved in your local PMI chapter because that's where a lot of businesses are going to go to recruit initially. I can tell you at Corbo, that's absolutely what we do. We go, if we're looking for a local project manager especially, the first place that we go is to the local PMI chapter. So get involved in your local PMI chapter, even if you don't have a job in project management yet, because that's going to open doors and give you some opportunities. So keep that in mind.
juggling all those pins. You can also try stepping into project management roles at other jobs to test the waters. Whether it's a cafe, a retail store, or a summer camp, there are definitely some larger, long-term projects your employer keeps putting off. You might volunteer to take it on as a new challenge, creating a plan and deadlines to help finally
just make sure you know what you're doing before you take responsibility of it.
A job in project management. What's on your resume is really important, but how it's on your resume is important too. You'll definitely want to make sure that in addition to your education, training, and all that good stuff, your resume includes key terms so it floats to the top of the pile. That's going to include specific project management philosophies you've trained on, like Scrum or the waterfall method. And you also want to be sure to call out any specific project management software you have experience with. And the soft skills you choose to call out are important too. Collaboration, problem solving, leadership, and communication are all really important for project management, so people, or bots, who review resumes will be looking for them specifically. Testing out being a project manager.
Okay, I was waiting for Pete to say this. So all of that was good advice. The only thing that I would add to it is put quantifiable successes on there, right? So mentioning I worked in waterfall, that is incredibly vague and tells me nothing. But if you say I worked in a waterfall environment where I managed a project in Microsoft Project that was 2,000 activities, we followed the critical path, things like that are going to tell me you actually know what you're talking about. Or, our project was, we came in on time, under budget, 20,000 under budget, on time. I've brought in 5 projects successfully on time and on budget. Things like that where you can point to specific instances in your past where you've done something like that. And keep in mind that especially once you understand project management, a lot of what you've done in your past career, even if it wasn't called project management, probably had an element of project management to it. So look for those nuggets of proof, essentially, in your background and make sure that you're including them onto your resume.
Is also a good way to see what that lifestyle is like. In general, because every sort of company has projects to accomplish, project managers can work in pretty much any field they want, from healthcare to IT to construction to finance to marketing to circuits equipment design. While project managers don't have to be experts in their field, they should have a basic knowledge of whatever kind of project they're managing. Like if you're a project manager,
but you can get that basic knowledge.
You don't necessarily need to be able to code your.
Listen, the thing is, you're not there to be the expert. The experts are the SMEs, the subject matter experts. Your job is to pull the needful information out of them, right? They're the ones that need to tell you how long something takes or what needs to be done next. Now, the more knowledge you have in that field, the better you can call them out on their BS, and the better that you have the ability maybe to facilitate the conversation. But I would argue that a good project manager, especially a good project manager with really strong facilitation skills, they need to know, I shouldn't say that. They don't need to know anything about the product or service or industry to effectively facilitate a team. Now, that applies more for consulting, right? So if you want to be in a specific company, you probably need to learn a little bit about that industry. But from a project manager, you should be able to take any really good project manager with really good facilitation skills and drop them in any room, regardless of the industry, and they should be able to perform. But that is also rare and hard to find.
Yourself, but you should be confident in the terminology and have a strong understanding of how it works in general. Or if you're a project manager for a circus equipment company, you don't actually have to be able to literally juggle 5 flaming torches, so long as you can juggle 3, which, again, I definitely cannot. But project managers do have to be experts in project management, and there's a lot of specialized knowledge that comes with the job. There are whole philosophies around the best approach to project management, and the best project managers have training or background in at least a few of them. Like there's the PRINCE2 method, which stands for Projects in Controlled Environments. This methodology emphasizes breaking down a large project into a bunch of bite-sized, highly manageable tasks with a clear focus on roles and responsibilities of everyone involved.
Man.
Meanwhile, the critical path method focuses more on the series of steps in a project's life cycle, following a strict schedule and sequence created at the beginning of the process to keep things organized and progressing on time. There's also agile project management, which is a cyclical approach that allows all different aspects of a project to progress, evaluate, and refine simultaneously rather than following a set order of steps. You might also encounter PRISM, or projects integrating sustainable methods, the waterfall method, Six Sigma, and Scrum, all of which—
I know where he's going with this, and he's not wrong. But there is so much overlap in these methodologies. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of overlap in these methodologies.
Which sound made up, but are real tried and true project management philosophies, I promise. There are also certain kinds of software and computer programs project managers have to be familiar with, like Airtable, Monday.com, or Asana. These programs can help project managers assign—
Okay, maybe Asana. Maybe. Monday and Airtable, maybe it's a little Airtable. You're not talking about the majority of industry or the majority of corporations out there. If you're talking big corporations, they're going to be on maybe Microsoft Project's phasing out, so not as much of that anymore. Same with Primavera. Oracle kind of wrecked that. But there's not as high of an adoption rate of your Monday.coms, your Rikes, ClickUps, a little bit more on the Smartsheet side because they've been around a lot longer. A lot of these tools are doing the exact same thing with just different user interfaces. So really what you need to know as a project manager is fundamentally what's the software doing. That's what you fundamentally need to know.
Assign tasks, track progress, organize deadlines, and generally monitor workflow as a project moves throughout its life cycle. In return for their supreme organizational skills, project managers make an average of just above $100,000 a year as of 2024, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Of course, this really varies depending on the field you're working in. A project manager for a fintech company is probably going to
hang on, we got to rewind that. What did you say, salaries?
Profit. It's also a growing field. Jobs in project management are expected to increase 6% between 2024.
Let's see. What did he just say? Okay.
Track progress, organize deadlines, and generally monitor workflow as a project moves throughout its life cycle. In return for their supreme organizational skills, project managers make an average of just above $100,000 a year as of 2024, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics.
I would say 120.
This really varies depending on the field you're working in. A project manager for a fintech company is probably going to make way more than one who works at a nonprofit.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So I would say probably in 2026, that's probably up to about, without having to look it up, probably about 120 is what I would say would be maybe average, somewhere around there. It's going up. Wildly differing salaries depending on where you're at and what industry you're in. Obviously, just like every other job, location is going to be, you can command more money in a dense city like Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles than you're going to be able to in the middle of nowhere. Those salaries are just going to be lower by nature of location. But outside of that, then you're also looking at industry. So wildly different. You can talk a 1099 project manager in the IT field can be commanding, 150 to 180. But you go into the construction or the manufacturing field and nowhere close. I mean, you're going to be lucky to get 100 an hour, and that's pretty lucky. So dramatically different depending on the industry you're in. So if you're not already in a specific industry and you're looking for project management, do some research on how much project managers make in specific industries. If you just search across the board, it gives you it's way too big of a range to be helpful. You need to look at what they're making in the industry that you want to work in.
It's also a growing field. Jobs in project management are expected to increase 6%
this is true.
2024 and 2034. So if you love to-do lists and deadlines, organizing people and tasks, and the beauty of a good spreadsheet, being a project manager might be exactly the career for you. And with your sense of responsibility, great communication, and mad organizational skills, you can make it through just about any project without dropping that flaming torch. Because being a project manager is a little like a circus fire. It's intense.
Yes.
But without project managers, a lot of projects would be like a trapeze artist sans their trapeze, unable to get off the ground. Explore your undergrad major options with our Fast Guide series, where we break down.
Okay. All right, so that was pretty good. A few things I would throw in there. There was some generic information that was kind of misleading without some detail, but I don't think intentionally. I think it was a good video, as I expect from Hank Green, by the way. Huge Hank Green fan. But yeah, good information. I would say the only other thing is if you like being in control, project manager is a great job for people who like being in control. You'll never be in control. You're herding cats all the time, but it's it works well for people because you're constantly striving for it. If you have any interest in being a project manager and want more information, hit me up in the comments or send me a DM. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day.